So today's Eamon's Insight Minutes is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to give tribute to a great that died over this Remembrance Day long weekend. I hope you enjoy it. Maybe enjoy is the wrong word, but I hope you appreciate it. Thank you so much. Markets. Never boring, never still, always evolving. In our data-intensive era, access to data is the same as access to intelligence. Listen in for my analysis, insights, and perspectives on market events, energy, commodity, finance, geopolitics. Together we will look at the past to help understand the future. I am Eamon L. Ramley, Chief Operating Officer of Zeddy Power Group and Zeddy Power Engineering. Thanks for joining me on Market Insights with Eamon L. Ramley. Stan Lee was born Stanley Martin Lieber, December 28, 1922. It was a long time ago. He was born to poor immigrant Romanian parents. Spent a lot of his time in the Bronx, in the poor parts of New York. You know, he was a poor Jewish kid growing up in a poor area, in actually a horrible time of U.S. And actually world history. He died just this Remembrance Day, and he was an active military person. He was actually one of only 9 playwrights ever in the U.S. military back in 1942. And, he was somebody who inspired me. He inspired probably you. He inspired, so many people I know. His Marvel Universe is part of our culture, part of our cult, part of who we define ourselves really. And, when things are dark, when things are bad, when we don't know what to do, sometimes you say, oh, I want to watch a movie. And what do we put on? We put on Spider-Man, or we put on Iron Man, or we put on the Avengers, or we put on Hulk, and we watch it for the 10th time, and we feel good. So, today I just want to give a little bit about what he meant to me, what he meant to us, and just kind of my little testimonial or little remembrance of a great man. Stan Lee began working at the comics section of Martin Goodman's Timely Comics, the company that would become Marvel Comics, and at the age of 18, he was their editor. So Stan Lee adopted the name Stan Lee, the pen name, his writing name, because, I mentioned how in the 20s and the 30s, it was a horrible time. It was a Depression era, post-war, and actually we were coming up to another war, so tensions all over the world were high. And it was a bad thing. It was low in the social status to be associated with the comics. He hoped in his embarrassment that nobody would actually associate Stan Lee with the real Stanley Lieber. But, today, that's our fantasy. We all wish we could be in the comics industry. But put that aside. Let's talk a little bit more about Stan.
So what do you say, Parker? They're all ready. All you gotta do is give the okay sign and we're off.
Gee, I'm sorry, fellas, but I have to catch a demonstration of radioactivity over at the lab. My professor's expecting me now.
Can you beat that? A bona fide, true-to-life bookworm.
So what Stan Lee taught us, whether we grew up in the 60s, or the 70s, or the 80s, or the 90s, or if you're my kids growing up now, that you didn't have to be perfect to be great. You could be a flawed human being. And quite different than the Superman archetype that DC created, his heroes were not perfecticons. They weren't the moral authority. They were people with issues, with problems. And what he taught us, really, you could be handicapped. You could be a different color. You could be an immigrant. You could be shy. You could have low self-esteem. You could be whatever. You could have whatever problem, and you could achieve greatness. You could save the world. Moreover, you could make mistakes, and you could redeem himself. And Stan Lee destroyed and created the world umpteen times in his comic books. And these people, they made mistakes. They had emotions. They had issues. But still, we looked up to them. We wanted to be them. And it's amazing. It's still true today. Stan Lee, he impacted, so many things about me. And he will continue to have those impacts.
If I only had tackled him when I had the chance. But I didn't, so he escaped, and now Uncle Ben is dead. Yes, Uncle Ben is dead, and in a sense it's really I who killed him. Because I didn't realize in time that with great power there must also always be great responsibility.
So the first people that we were introduced to, and actually they're over here, is the Fantastic Four 1961. And he went on from there and he created the Thor, Iron Man, the Hulk, Doctor Strange, and and the iconic Spider-Man, which became the most captivating, the most famous, the most successful Marvel hero. And you know what? I'm sure you agree with me. We all love Peter Parker. We all have a little Peter Parker inside us. So along with Bill Everett and Steve Ditko, Stan Lee gathered all these great heroes together into the Avengers. They were the team, the real team. And actually, like real teams, they had conflicts amongst each other. They have conflict with the people outside. They were, torn about what to do, what was right, what was wrong. All of the kind of ideals of humanity, the Avengers fought with them, and they continue to fight with them. And again, they saved the world over and over again. And these guys, Steve, Bill, Stan, they shaped our world. And for me, in my youth, it was three people, really. It was Stan Lee, it was Edgar Rice Burroughs, the creators of Tarzan, and Tarzan became a Marvel comic in 1977, and it was Walt Disney. And the company that Walt Disney started actually acquired Marvel Entertainment in 2009 for $4 billion. Had you bought that stock in 2009, in May 23, you could have got it for as low as $15 some. Today, that stock is trading at $116. It's still my buy list. So, bottom line, to be great, you think great. To be great, you do like the great. And you know what, Stan Lee, he's amongst the greats. May God rest his soul. May God keep him. And for you young guys, if you want to see who Stan was, just watch any of the movies. He's famous for his cameos. So like Alfred Hitchcock, you can watch a Marvel movie and see Stan Lee with a little comic genius. Thank you so much. That's my little tribute. See you later. As always, the opinions and commentary included are only my own and only meant to provoke interesting discussion.